publicising this week's TV drama, The Fountain of Filth in London, a Channel 4 art installation. Fat cat water monopoly boss, laughing all the way to the bank, looks down on a public variously vomiting. Title slogan, they get richer, we get sicker.
You think that's poo? Of course, it's not poo.
In the year that I have data for, they've dumped sewage 1,000 times.
Get the doctor in.
So it is that this week's Channel 4 drama documentary about water monopolies and sewage centres on the case of a young girl whose parents say was killed by contact with sewage-polluted water.
I mean, they're not the mafia, these water companies. They're not a drugs cartel, but they do dump sewage.
Since privatisation, water monopolies have dumped more and more sewage into rivers year upon year. 2024 saw almost 1 million sewage dumps. That's one every 30 seconds across England. It all leaves just 14% of English rivers in good ecological condition, but none is free of chemical pollution. Not one. The water industry says it's investing £12 billion, which will halve the number of sewage spills by 2030. Too little too late, say more than 40 environment groups, calling on the government's coming water bill to end this catastrophic record.
We need to sort the system with a public interest obligation on water companies. We need to stop the pollution with strict bans on chemical pollution and intensive farming, and we need to make the most of the opportunity to restore wildlife with some wonderful habitat corridors up and down our coastlines and along major rivers.
He's far from alone, knowing public opinion's enraged by the conduct of the water monopolies. A few yards away, the Liberal Democrats launching their bill to give England's famous chalk streams UNESCO World Heritage status.
It forced the government, it would force the water companies to give them the protection they deserve, force them to clean up the sewage, force them to make sure that the World Heritage nature of Britain's unique chalk streams is properly recognised.
And this is what they mean. Pristine streams like the Loddon near Basingstoke. Chalk streams globally renowned for trout fishing, but 83% of them are now damaged by pollution. And here, because you're so near the source of the Loddon, something simple, but sadly now remarkable, is still possible.
To be able to do that simple thing, drink safely from our rivers and streams. Of course, it's now impossible over so much of our waterways network. And that is what campaigners say must change in the coming bill. One of the key ways of doing that, they say, is at last to have a proper watchdog with real teeth to take action against the water monopolies.
For Stuart Singleton-White, what goes for chalk streams goes for our river system full stop. Regenerate nature and you regenerate us all.
I think the first thing we've got to do, both as government through our policies, but also as a society, is respect and protect our rivers, and particularly start with protecting them as places for nature and their ecological health. Because all of the other benefits that rivers give us, whether that's recreational benefits, whether that's just simply being here in nature, or whether that's the economic benefits of fresh, clean, plentiful water, all of it starts from healthy, nature-rich rivers, and that should be the priority for all our rivers right across England.
The only country in the world to fully privatise its water has turned its rivers into open sewers. Pressure is building on the government to end that, and end it soon.
Well, joining me now from Worcestershire is Julie Morn, whose daughter's story formed the inspiration for some of Dirty Business. Heather was just 8 years old when she died after contracting E. coli, which her mother believes happened during a visit to a beach in Devon. Thank you very much for joining us. Dirty Business goes into the traumatic nature of Heather's death. Why is that something you were prepared to be part of and to cooperate with?
I thought it was really, really important that people got to see how terrible her death was. She was poisoned and she died a really painful, terrible death. And the source of that infection was the beach, somewhere on the beach. So I just felt that it was the right time to tell her story.
What do you think can be done now about what happened then and what continues to happen now, perhaps in slightly different ways?
I think the most important thing is for people to start to take action. I mean, I've done lots of raising awareness, but I think it's time for change now. I think everybody knows there's a problem, and now we've got to start moving towards the solution. And I think there are many arguments about what that solution is, but ultimately we need to focus on public health, and we need to make sure people are safe.
I mean, the government and opposition parties are quite united in the way they talk about water and the scandal of pollution. What is it you think they're failing to get to grips with, and why?
I think something that was covered in the piece just before, water is a life force. And I think nothing on this planet can survive without water. And I think having it attached to profit, having it attached to money is, I just don't understand why that would be. Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that our water is safe and clean, and we can all use it without any worry or concern.
And do you think renationalisation would do that?
Yeah, I think we need to move it away from profit. I think we need to move it away from money. We need to make sure that everybody is safe.
I'm sure that the makers of this drama are hoping it will have a similar effect as Mr. Bates and the Post Office. I guess you have that hope as well. I mean, what do you think could happen as a result?
Well, I'm hoping everybody stands up. Everybody, after watching this drama, which I think is brilliant, stands up and says, "Enough's enough now. We need to stop all this, everything that's going on." Is putting, I always say, we all take our children. We love taking our children on holiday to the beach, don't we? We like to see our children build their first sandcastle. We like to see our children paddle, swim in the sea. But it's getting to the point where we can't do that anymore. And I'm sure after watching the final episode, because the final scene is amazing, that people now will stand up and go no. And I think the more voices there are, the more people that gather and join and protest and say no, then that change will have to happen.
When you went on that family holiday, did you choose that beach because it had a good reputation?
It had a blue flag. I researched, on that blue flag communicated to me the beach was clean. So that's why we went there. It was only after Heather died, I learned that it meant that the beach was tidy. It wasn't clean.
And have you had politicians contacting you since?
No.
What would you like to say to them if they're watching?
I'd like to say that whoever wrote the white paper, whoever's involved in this, you need to sit aside an intensive care bed where somebody is seriously ill from contracting E. coli 157, a very dangerous bacterium that causes hemolytic uremic syndrome that there is no treatment for. So if you do get infected, you're in the lap of the gods. All you can get is supportive care, and you can be left with kidney damage, gut damage, brain damage. And I think they need to sit down and actually have a conversation with people like me who've experienced that.
And can you just finish by perhaps telling us a little bit about Heather?
Yeah, Heather was the spark. Heather was the the live wire of the family, you know. And a best example I can give is that when Mark and I would have a hug, she would squeeze in between. When Mark was bringing me a cup of tea in bed, she would leap in the bed and like, I want a cup of tea too. She was the one that made us laugh. She was the one that was just the Mad Hatter, the cracker in the family.
Julie Morn, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, following the release of the Channel 4 drama, a spokesman for South West Water said they recognise the loss of a child is devastating. They said, however, that the inquest documentation confirmed that no definitive source of infection was established for Heather's death, and no sufficient evidence was found linking the illness to storm overflow activity or bathing water quality.